morning, everybody, and welcome to this week's Keeping an Eye on the Geopolitical Ball with me, Jamie Shea, Senior Fellow at Friends of Europe. This week, the big news, of course, continues to be Gaza, and it's very tempting to talk about that. But other things, of course, continue to go on in the world, particularly with long-term significance for our lives. And this week, the UK government had an interesting experiment when it held the first ever AI, artificial intelligence, safety summit near London at Bletchley Park. Those of you who know your Second World War will remember that Bletchley Park was the location of the British codebreakers during World War II, particularly people like Alan Turing, who used the first ever digital programmable computer to break the German military Enigma code. So a very symbolic location. The UK was using this event to showcase its ability to be a leader in global diplomacy, notwithstanding Brexit, and to bring the rest of the world together. And interestingly, we had not just the EU in attendance, the Secretary General of the United Nations, and many other leaders from 28 different countries. Kamala Harris, the Vice President of the United States, was there, but the Chinese showed up in the form of Zhaohui, who is the Vice Minister for Technology. The US wasn't particularly pleased with that. It leaked out in the press because, of course, the US suspects that China is manipulating artificial intelligence to dominate the global market and use it for military applications. But it seems to, at least to me, quite sensible, if the Chinese are willing to participate, to try to develop this as a global initiative whereby everybody would agree to play by the same norms and standards. That's a prize well worth striving for. But you need on AI, as on all innovative technologies, not only governments and officials, but industry, academic experts, and the civil society on the receiving end of AI, because regulation requires this multi-stakeholder approach. And so, fortunately, Elon Musk was there too, the CEO of Google DeepMind, Demis Hassabis, and Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, who developed, of course, as everybody knows, the ChatGPT technology backed by Microsoft, which broke onto the market about a year ago. Now, this summit was intended to get ahead of the AI regulation curve before the technology develops too much and too fast, and therefore becomes much more difficult later on to impose safety standards on it. This is, of course, what we've often seen in the past with new technologies like nuclear weapons, chemical weapons, cyber, where arms control negotiations and limitations have taken decades to negotiate once the technology was there. So it's not a moment too soon now to see what are the norms and standards that should regulate AI as we go forward. We've already seen a sufficient indication of the risks, the deep fakes, which can interfere with election campaigns, the fake artistic creations, for example, fake songs attributed by famous pop artists, the disputes over creativity and copyright, and all as we have more AI content in creative products. But the UK, in convening the summit, took a much more alarmist tone. Rishi Sunak pointed out that AI could be used not just by hackers to weaponize cyber attacks, but also by terrorists to produce bioweapons and more generally to sow chaos. Now, fortunately, there are already a number of initiatives underway to start regulating AI, or at least to start the conversation as to how to do it. The European Union was the first in the game with its Artificial Intelligence Act, which is now going through the European Parliament. It emphasizes the protection of people's human rights, particularly from surveillance, things like facial recognition cameras and so on, and data privacy. The United States has this week also announced a major executive order from President Biden, including the setting up of an AI safety institute, but also based on a lot of voluntary contributions from American AI companies. We also have the G7 which has produced a code of conduct on AI. And the United Nations has also got into the game by announcing that it has formed its own advisory board with experts, industry and governments. At the summit at Bletchley Park, Rishi Sunak proposed a global advisory board modelled on the United Nations International Panel on Climate Change, which could raise the alarm regarding the risks and produce a consensual view as to the state of the art of the technology. Although this climate change panel, of course, has not really got involved in advocating the solutions. That is what governments still have to do. So how do we put all of these initiatives together in a way which ensures that the global community will move together with one common purpose? Well, I think there are a number of principles that at least should govern the approach. Number one is don't rush to regulate. We hear this from industry all the time. Industry is worried that AI innovation would be sort of snuffed out, if you like, by over hasty and ill-designed regulation, which would, of course, not allow us to secure the full benefits of this technology. For instance, in health diagnostics and planning, and in a multitude of other things that could make our daily lives easier. As Elon Musk likes to put it, insight before oversight. Yes, that's all very well, but there's also a sense that, industry clearly doesn't want regulation before it has managed to figure out a good business model to make money out of AI. That's obvious. That's what industry does. So the danger is that if we wait too long, it will be too late. And the solutions will be less effective. So, yes, don't rush to regulate before we've evaluated the risks and the possibilities of the technology. But I think we need guardrails, at least as soon as possible, to ensure that those risks are properly evaluated before products are put onto the market and that they are properly certified. The human being, of course, has to stay in the loop. The second major principle is to balance unilateralism with multilateralism. It's good that we have the EU, the US, we have the G7, we have regional initiatives, but AI is going to be used globally as cyber and the internet more generally, and social media and other technologies are used globally. So we need to balance the regional groups like NATO with its own AI code of conduct, or the OSCE, the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, the first to develop a set of norms on cybersecurity, with a UN-based approach as well. The third is governments have to be in the lead. As I said, we cannot allow industry to self-regulate in this area, but governments need to engage industry. And what is quite different about AI is that it's industry, people like Elon Musk and Sam Altman, who have been warning of the dangers and calling governments to take action. This is in marked contrast, for example, to Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook in the early days, where for years Zuckerberg denied that there were any negative consequences to starting a global conversation on his platforms. And it's only recently that Zuckerberg has faced up to the issues, for example, of fact-checking and content moderation and more intelligent algorithms to screen out extremism and all the rest. So government's in the lead, but working closely with industry. The next thing is that it's good that the United States is setting up an AI Safety Institute, but we need a global safety institute along the lines of the UN's World Health Organization or the International Agency for Atomic Energy, which can ensure that technology transfer is subject to standards and controls, and can develop a mature risk assessment model so that we balance the risks and opportunities of AI as we go forward. Technology, as we all know, is never one way. It can be used beneficially, as your drone, which delivers your cornflakes or your Mao, and the drone which drops bombs on you as well. So we need to apply the precautionary principle to ensure that products are robustly tested for safety before they are launched. And the risk has to know to what extent the algorithms are reliable, the knowledge that AI pretends to give us is really based on knowledgeability and produces accurate rather than false answers, and that the technology is not able to educate itself or reprogram itself in a way which would make AI considerably more intelligent than human beings in the future. Finally, safety by design. Some AI experts have usually called for 30% of all research and development in new AI products to be devoted to safety, which should be built in from the outset. This is helpful because if one thinks, for example, of the internet and cyberspace, the technology was delivered decades before we woke up to the risks and then had to worry about firewalls and diagnostics, more intelligent software, debugging systems, and all of the other issues that we've been confronted with ever since. So building in safety in design at the outset could save us a lot of problems later. Well, Bletchley, the summit is over now, but there is a commitment by South Korea to organize another AI safety summit in 6 months, and France has volunteered to organize another one 6 months after that. So a global dialogue, including China, has been launched. In a divided world, this is at least a hopeful sign, and let's hope that going forward, leaders will manage to keep that global initiative. Many thanks for listening today. I look forward to engaging with you next week. Bye for now.